I have the roll call, please.
Trustee Collins.
Here.
Trustee Hayek.
Here.
Trustee Miller.
Here.
Trustee Pierce. Here. Sorry. Trustee Solomon.
Here.
Trustee Thomas.
Here.
Okay. Trustee Collins, would you report on our Finance Committee meeting, please?
You will be delighted to know that 8% into the fiscal year, we are still within budget. We're a little light on water sales. The season has not been hot and dry, so we're not selling a lot of water, but other than that, everything is performing as expected. Our cash balances are higher than they normally are because of the collection of property tax revenue. And I may, at this point, pass back to you for some comments about how you will handle the treasurer's report as of next month.
Okay. As of next month, of course, we will be losing 3 of our wonderful trustees, and we'll be getting 3 new trustees, and so there will be a new finance chair beginning after, really in the month of June will be the first time that we'll have a new finance chair. Bruce will still be here for the first part of the meeting next month, so that we'll be able to have the benefit of his able advice. But after that, we're going to have a new finance chair, which I've asked Jonathan Free to serve in that capacity. And so at the beginning of these meetings, I'll be asking Jonathan to report on how we're doing financially, etc.
That's it.
Okay. Are there any questions or discussions on items that are on the consent agenda? If not, could I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I so move.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Trustee Collins.
Yes.
Trustee Hayek.
Yes.
Trustee Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Pierce.
Yes.
Trustee Solomon.
Yes.
Trustee Thomas.
Yes.
Okay, we're at that point in our meeting schedule for public comment time, and so is there anyone who would like to comment on an item not on the agenda? So I see 2 hands. Let's start with.
We're together.
You're together. Okay. Would you identify each other?
My name is Eileen O'Halloran, and I live in the Terrace Court Basin with my husband, Daryl Brayboy.
And I'm Jan Sachs, and I live on Elm Ridge with my husband, Robert. Elm Ridge Drive.
Well, it's not it. First of all, I'd like you to notice how less people are here tonight. Because really, you've worked so hard to try to address all of our village issues regarding infrastructure. And we are here representing so many people across Glencoe who voted in this important referendum that was on the ballot in April with a very high, almost I think 84% in favor of Proposition 1. So we really just wanted to extend our thanks to all of you on the board for working so hard to quickly put this together and put it on the ballot. Thank you for your efforts to put Referendum 1 on the April ballot and begin to address the storm sewer issues in these 5 neighborhoods. We appreciate your continuous involvement and quick response to the very important problems concerning flooding in our homes and on our streets. You listened to our issues and worked expeditiously on finding a solution that would benefit many neighborhoods across all of Glencoe. Your willingness to work with the community to resolve these issues set the tone for the entire process. Please extend our thanks to everyone at the village who has worked so hard on improving our village infrastructure, especially Phil Corrali and Dave Mao, and all of you. We appreciate all the time and effort and support you involved yourself in, and we look forward to working together throughout the entire process and anything of which we can be of assistance. Thank you. This is signed by Janet and I, and also Rosemary Spiro and Ann McPhee, and it is a representation of so many others. Thank you.
If I may, Mr. President, I am honored that you came to tell us that. I've been on the board now 10 years, and I always say to people, you don't get thank you notes, you know. But this is very kind and gracious of you to come here. I am delighted that the village supported this. Your flooding problems were terrible, and you were very clear about what you needed done. And I know it's long and frustrating, but I am pleased to see a light at the end of this tunnel.
Yeah,
thank you.
It's
Thank
really
you for
given
coming.
us a lot of hope. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may just add, Rosemary and Sam could not be here tonight, as Ann McPhee could not also be here, and there are many others that were very heavily involved in helping this proposition get passed that would have been here tonight. We would have had a major crowd, and we would not have kept you late. But we would have all been here to say thank you. So this letter is from all of us. I have also written a letter to Larry and Phil. I'm sure that you saw it. I hope it's been extended to everyone. Dave, I know that everyone has spent so many extra hours at their desks and at the village meetings to help this situation, and it is very, very, very much appreciated. And I just want to be sure that you understand how grateful we are that we've gotten this far. But we're not done yet, are we?
No.
But thank you very, very much from the whole community that couldn't be here tonight. Thank you.
And we thank you for your efforts in helping to educate the members and residents of our community and all of us, both on the board and our staff, so that we could get this presented. And we're very grateful that 84%, which is very nice, of our residents agreed with all of us that this is what needed to be done.
We threatened them.
And we're glad you'll have better HVAC too.
Okay, thank you. And we'll be happy to help any more that we can. So please, you've got our emails, and we'll be happy to help.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hello. As always, I want to thank you guys for all your support that you give the Friends of the Green Bay Trail. And I'm just here to let you know that our annual fundraiser, the Buckthorn Barbecue, will be held on the 4th Thursday of October. That's the 22nd. And it will again be at the Chicago Botanic Garden. So I hope to see some of you there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Betsy. Anyone else wish to address us? Okay. Village Manager's report.
I will apologize at the outset of my report that this is probably the longest manager's report I've had in my whole time here, and but that there's a lot to report on, and I want to make sure we get this information to the appropriate folks, and so we're gonna get started. Referendum. We've just heard from a couple of our residents. I would add that their efforts from a grassroots perspective were also integral to the success of the outcome of this referendum. They were out pressing the flesh at the polling places on their own behalf, and I think the residents of this community appreciate that as well. So thank you for your efforts. Obviously, we're very pleased with the affirmative support received from the village voters in the referendum last week. Now that we've received voter approval, the tasks related to implementation of these projects must begin. As was briefly discussed in the Finance Committee this evening, we're reviewing timelines for the issuance of bonds, but I've asked Dave Mao to provide a brief overview of some of the next steps in the process related to project design and implementation. And so Dave's going to walk us through what the board can expect over the next few months and what the community should be hoping for as well. So Dave, could you walk us through that?
Certainly, Mr. President, members of the board. With the approval of the referendum and the village board proceeding with the bond issuance process, staff is very quickly moving into the design engineering phase for several of the proposed improvement projects. Design engineering for the storm sewer upgrades approved on April 7th will be initiated this spring following approval of an engineering services agreement that we expect to bring to the board next month in May. Given the scope of work to complete both the design and the construction in the time frame the bonds are to be expended, the proposed plan is to complete the plans to bid 2 of the project areas for construction in 2016 and 2 for construction in 2017. And we will have more on that, on the prioritization of those projects in May when we bring that agreement to you. Contract plans for maintenance street resurfacing, another component of the bond issue projects, will be prepared for bidding early next spring for 2016 construction. Staff is in the process of evaluating those qualified street segments that will be assembled for this contract, and we expect to have that list finalized by the end of the summer. Sidewalk improvements may be completed later in 2015 based on joint bid pricing that is currently being negotiated through the Municipal Partnering Initiative. that we have participated in for the last several years with the Village of Glenview and other surrounding communities for work such as street resurfacing and sidewalk concrete work. Another project that is part of the municipal partnering initiative is the sanitary sewer lining contract. We are targeting beginning this work this fall, and we may split that into 2 contracts over 2015 and 2016. We're still investigating and testing and examining candidate sanitary sewer main segments in various areas throughout the village, and we also expect to have a final list of proposed segments to be included in that project, and manholes that we're going to line as well, based on their condition. We expect to have that list assembled later this summer. And then finally, the HVAC improvements. We will be meeting with our consultant who prepared the study for the village in the next month to discuss implementation of this comprehensive improvement project. It is anticipated we will bring an agreement for design to the board for this improvement for consideration in June. The targeted construction schedule for these improvements may be impacted by how that work is phased, but in any event, we expect that work to be underway in 2016, and whether it straddles 2 construction years is yet to be determined. On a related note, from a capital project update standpoint, there are 2 projects that are planned for construction yet this spring, summer. The first is the Green Bay Road Maintenance Resurfacing Improvement. The contract for the village's planned maintenance resurfacing improvement on Green Bay Road has been awarded to Peter Baker and Sons of Lake Bluff. This $1.14 million improvement will include the milling and resurfacing of 1.6 miles of Green Bay Road between Park Avenue and Lake Cook. 70% of the cost of this project is covered by federal funding. The scope of the improvement also includes base patching, some spot curb replacement, and construction of a new landscape median just north of Park Avenue and Green Bay Road. Peter Baker will mobilize to begin work on June 1st, and all work is expected to be completed by the end of July, weather permitting. Green Bay Road will remain open during construction, and we'll be working with the Park District and the Taker Center, as well as the Writers Theater project contractor, to facilitate the impact of this resurfacing improvement on both of those entities and operations. Also on the planning board for this summer is a resurfacing improvement to Sheridan Road. Sheridan Road is an unmarked state highway, and so this is an IDOT effort, both from a design, bidding, and funding standpoint. It's tentatively on a July 31st letting. On a parallel track, we've been working with IDOT on trying to include some drainage improvements into this improvement, which is for practical purposes is nothing more than resurfacing. There's still the final determination of whether that can be accomplished and still be part of this July letting has not been determined, and so we will keep the board apprised on the schedule on Sheridan Road. But at this point, tentatively, it's on a July 31st letting for fall construction. So that's my report.
Any questions for Dave? We are setting ourselves up for a series of busy construction years, certainly. But
I do have a question. What kind of traffic rerouting is there going to be when these projects go? I mean, Green Bay and Sheridan are fairly major arteries for us.
Well, because of the nature of the improvements, there'll be no significant detours. They'll work in live traffic and flag daytime flagging operations, moving traffic zones. Then traffic will be opened up, in the evenings to all lanes. The tricky part of the Green Bay Road improvement will be this median construction at the south end, so that'll take some coordination with the neighboring side streets and the commuter parking lot.
Dave, I assume in looking at the bond issues and those projects, we'll have a better handle on whether any of them can be advanced once the engineering studies and things have been completed.
Yes, but again, the scope of these improvements, based on our past experience, we've got from survey to final design, we've got 4 to 5 months. And so we're not anticipating that we're gonna have any of these ready to bid this fall, and quite frankly, that's not an opportune time for us to be bidding this kind of work.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dave? Thank you, Dave. I wanted to update the board on the Frank Lloyd Wright waiting station proposal. The village and the Park District have been working with the Glencoe Historical Society regarding their proposal to reconstruct the Wright designed former waiting station where the Green Bay Trail intersects with Maple Hill. As proposed, the Historical Society is seeking the opportunity to recreate this Wright designed structure to be used as a trail amenity on the Green Bay Trail and as an educational historic tie-in to Glencoe's past. The coordination and reconstruction of the station, in coordination with the reconstruction of the station, the Glencoe Historical Society has also proposed to improve and restore Park 7N, which is located adjacent to the Green Bay Trail and is a Park District property. Dave, can you, if you could put the site plan up. Thank you. The Glencoe Historical Society has proposed to fundraise for these projects so as to ensure no public investment. We've previously discussed with the Park District the possibility of their maintaining the structure if it were to be built, which would likely require a small parcel of land to be dedicated to the district or an easement or land lease provided from the village for a portion of the Green Bay Trail right-of-way. As we've worked through this proposal, staff had several points in mind that we wanted to ensure would not impact the safe usage of the Green Bay Trail, and worked with the Historical Society to ensure that the station not be set immediately at the edge of the trail and that it accommodate bicycle parking so as to minimize bicycle pedestrian traffic impacts. Staff also expressed that the village will need to maintain flexibility should a water transmission main be installed along the trail if we connect to Highland Park for water service, as is one of the options currently being investigated related to our future water supply. Staff met with representatives from the Historical Society on site and reviewed these points to determine how to proceed. Together, we believe that the location, as outlined on the site plan, would accommodate the issues highlighted by the village. Dave, if you can swing to one of those, there you go. As can be seen in the footprint of the station, which is the tallest yellow ribbon, that's the actual building, and then the shorter yellow ribbon would be the overhang of the eave, and the pink ribbon would be the extent of the concrete base of the building. It would be, the station itself would be set back from the existing trail by at least 11 feet. And accommodations for up to 12 bicycles will be designed into a pad to the north of the station, both to limit the impact of traffic on the trail and still keep the station relevant as a trail amenity. This also provides more than adequate right-of-way should the village require it for installation of a water transmission main. This would require the building to straddle over the Park District property line by about 3 feet. At this point, staff is satisfied that this location will be appropriate and adequately addresses our concerns. And given this, staff would like to commence working with the possible land dedication easement process with the Park District and bring back a recommendation to the village board in the future. This would allow, if the board agrees with staff's perspective, this would allow the Historical Society to begin fundraising while we work through the other details related to this project. Ed Goodale is here from the Historical Society. He or I can answer any questions that the board may have if you have any at this time. Hearing none, no? Okay. We will we'll proceed with that in mind, and I will bring a report back to the board hopefully in May on progress with the Park District. All right, thanks, Ed. Nathan Parch is here. He's going to provide the board a quick update on the required updates that the village needs to implement into its affordable housing plan. Nathan, can you walk us through that quickly? Sure. Thank you.
The affordable housing, excuse me. The Affordable Housing Planning and Appeals Act was passed by the state of Illinois in January of 2014, requiring all communities that do not have at least 10% of their housing stock designated as affordable to adopt an affordable housing plan and submit the plan to the state.
Nathan, it was in 2004
I'm sorry,
when it was adopted.
our plan, oh, okay, I'm sorry.
The
Thank
law.
you for clarifying. Glencoe was determined to be a non-exempt local government under the act and in response appointed a 16-member affordable housing task force who prepared an affordable housing plan that met the requirements of the act by the deadline. The plan recommended by the task force was approved by the village board on March 17, 2005. The state received Glencoe's affordable housing plan on March 22, 2005, and acknowledged that it addressed the minimum requirements of the statute. Formal approval of the plan was not required by the state, merely acknowledgement that the plan was prepared and received. At this time, the state has determined that Glencoe remains a non-exempt local government based on the review of 2010 census data. This determination, again, requires the village to submit an affordable housing plan to the state by the deadline of June 2nd, 2015. Staff has consulted with the village attorney to identify what steps must be taken to meet this deadline. The village attorney has determined that the current plan remains valid and does not require wholesale redrafting. Instead, specific elements are in need of being refreshed, including updated demographic data, a restatement of goals, and a summary of the progress made in meeting the goals previously identified. This necessary updating can be conducted by staff in consult with the village attorney and does not require the appointment of a task force or a village board subcommittee. In conclusion, pending there is no desire to change the village's affordable housing policy from that approved in 2004 and outlined in the current plan, staff will proceed to make the necessary updates for the board's consideration at the next meeting on May 21st.
Mr. President, Manager, the only thing I want to just emphasize that my determination that no substantive work needs to be done is based on the underlying assumption that there is no desire to change the policy that the village has been adhering to since its adoption in 2005. And if that is indeed the case, then the refresh option is all that is necessary, and we will begin work on putting a document together for your review.
How would you like to test that assumption? You want to ask us what, should we just informally tell you, or do we need to have a hearing on, put an agenda item on that? You're assuming that we haven't changed our minds.
That's.
How will you, I mean, I haven't changed my mind, but how do you know whether other people?
I suppose it's speak now or forever hold your peace.
Right, part of the reason this is being brought up this evening is for that very feedback, that if there is a sense of a difference in policy direction from the board, that we have that opportunity to talk about that briefly this evening, and if necessary, have additional discussion.
I'm happy.
I don't think there's any need for the discussion. I've been chairman of the committee, which hasn't met for about 8 years. And I made sure it was removed as an agenda item because I thought it was appropriate not to meet. There haven't been any developers that have come to our attention. We don't expect there are any on the horizon. We appreciate you refreshing the submission of the plan, and we're sorry we have to go through the process, in my estimation.
And since we have to go through the process, of course, everybody will have an opportunity in the new board to look at the plan and determine if they wish to continue it, although there has been no changes that would indicate, no developers that have come to us that would indicate any need for change.
The underlying economics have not changed.
Correct, and that's the main thing. Without a change in the underlying economics, we're not going to see anything.
Yeah, there have been no submissions made since the plan was approved in 2005, so it's
No submissions and no expressions of interest.
interest.
And no aggrieved developers, which
Yes.
is the issue.
Correct.
And so it seemed pointless to take up the old plan as opposed to get it refreshed and have us look at it when it's refreshed.
If you know any developers that want to buy high and sell low, this is a good opportunity.
So far, they've been few and far between.
All right, well, we appreciate your feedback on that. We will bring the refreshed plan back to the board for your review in May. I have just a few more items, and I apologize again for the length of my report, but important things. Water system study information meetings. We are currently in the process of locking dates and times for some upcoming meetings regarding the water system planning study presented to the board just this past month. As was mentioned last month, we plan to provide a number of opportunities for public review and feedback on the options outlined in the report done by Strand Associates on the future of the village's water utility. As the village remains in a mode of gathering additional information on the options presented, we expect the public discussions will be ongoing for many months, as we indicated back in March. However, this first round of public information sessions will focus on introducing the issue to the community and gathering initial feedback. Staff will be hosting an open house session later this spring, and we are working with the Glencoe Community Relations Forum to revitalize the former heart-to-heart community meetings held in years past. The forum is planning at this point to host 2 of these events in June. Locations and dates for all events will be announced in the next few weeks in a mailing sent to all Glencoe residents, as well as posted on the village's website and on our social media pages, and we'll also be announcing those meeting dates utilizing Glencoe Connect. I would encourage any resident who hasn't had a chance to visit the village's website to do so, to learn more about this important community issue. There is a great deal of information on the website. A comprehensive web page has been created for this topic, listing various documents and other information. As I mentioned last month, we have a dedicated email address that's been set up for this particular topic, and we are in the process of assembling the first round of questions that we've received through that email address. We will be answering those questions and posting both the questions and the answers on the website shortly. So we look forward to continuing to engage the community on this important topic and look for more information on these meetings coming very soon. I wanted to publicly announce, although it's been in all of our local newspapers and I've sent it out to the board and others, that I'm very pleased to announce that Sharon Tanner will be joining the village's team as our new assistant manager on Monday, April 27th. Sharon has spent the last 8 years in Glenview, most recently serving as Deputy Director of Public Works. She has built up a very diverse skill set that I believe will serve Glencoe very well, and I know the staff who participated in the interview process, as well as the village president, agree with me on that. I very much look forward to introducing her to the community, and I'm very confident she will get up to speed quickly on our many pending projects that are before us. I would like to provide a quick note of thanks to those who assisted with the recruitment process. This was possibly the most talented pool of candidates I've ever fielded in a recruitment. We had 91 candidates from 16 states. We narrowed that 91 to 10 who were granted initial interviews by our department heads, by our management analyst Dave Krause and myself. The top 5 returned for a full-day assessment center, followed by one-on-one interviews with me. Our assessors included Director of Public Safety Carrie Lewandowski, Park District Executive Director Lisa Shepard, Northbrook Village Manager Rich Narstadt, and Wheeling Director of Human Resources Mike Crotty, along with President Levin, who had a chance to speak with each of the top 5 candidates. I'm also grateful to Heidi Voorhees of GovHR USA, who facilitated the recruitment from start to finish. I'm very pleased and proud of the outcome. I very much look forward to Sharon's good work that she will be doing on behalf of the residents of Glencoe, and I look forward to her meeting all of you next month when she is formally with us on staff. I believe she's taking a little time off before she starts with us, so she'll be here a week from Monday, and her desk is already filling up. A couple of things in terms of upcoming special events. I wanted to announce the village's annual Arbor Day tree planting ceremony takes place next Friday at 2 p.m. That is the 24th at Central School, and you are all invited to participate in that. The Friends of the Green Bay Trail has their Arbor Day celebration on Saturday, April 25th at 10 a.m. As we all know, the Green Bay Trail was once home to numerous trail marker trees, as well as the North Shore Electric Line. The ceremony will include the unveiling of a new sign describing these moments in history, as well as the trail's new marker tree. So that's exciting. Betsy, is that starting around Harbor and the trail right there?
It's just south of Harbor Street, probably maybe 100 feet, and it's going to be on the east side of the trail.
Perfect. So everyone is of course invited to that. Our Memorial Day ceremonies take place on Monday, May 25th. I do not have the times in front of me for the kickoff of the parade and the Memorial Day ceremony at Veterans Park, but we will have that information posted online, and we encourage you to participate, all the community to participate. Our Patriotic Day committee will be fundraising as always. There is a new opportunity for making donations toward those events. The village's website, if you are so inclined to utilize a credit card, you can make donations via credit card on the village's website. So that is something new this year. Finally, the Glencoe Grand Prix is Saturday, May 30th. We met with the Grand Prix planning committee this morning with village staff. They are planning a very exciting day, as always, and this is the 9th annual event, which is hard to believe. Steve, I was asking you to mention one thing as well.
I will. Thank you, Phil. Phil's referring to the seminar that our firm conducts for every other year for the past 26 years. Our law firm has put on a seminar for elected and appointed officials, to which all members of the board, those retiring and those coming on, are invited and encouraged to attend. For those lawyers in the room, there will be CLE credit provided. This year it will be on Friday, May 1st at the I.O. Improv Comedy Showcase House, their brand new facility in the North Clybourne Triangle area. It starts at 10:30, goes for the entire day, and we have a number of very interesting substantive topics concerning both Illinois and local government law. So we do encourage you to attend. You should have received an invite. If you did not and you want one to be given to you, please let me know. There will also be officials there from 20 of our other local government clients, so a good place to interact and network with other local government officials. Oh, good.
All right.
Okay, we're at that place where I asked Barbara, is there anything to report on the Plan Commission?
I'm afraid not, we did not have a meeting. It ended up getting canceled, but hopefully I'll have a lot to say a month from now.
Okay. Dale, is there anything on our golf committee?
Well, I could say I have nothing to report, but I like to talk, so, I'll keep it short. We are meeting this next Monday, so there's nothing to report on a meeting we have actually had. The only thing I thought was worth bringing to the board's attention is Stella, the manager of the golf course, made clear in her report, due to the efforts of Stella and Dave Arden and their crew, our golf course was able to open far ahead of the competitors, and I think that's, again, just another piece of evidence of the kind of job they do. Secondly, we're pretty close to getting, if not over by this time, the number of permanent tee times to exceed the budget we have. And permanent tee time payments are very important to having cash in hand for operations. And the third thing is that I guess only golfer might be excited about this, but the work is underway to improve the 10th tee on the 10th hole, I mean the tee for the 10th hole. Part of this is simply the kind of improvements that Stella and Dave have been doing on various holes in the course. But part of it is that, I will say, when we build a new clubhouse, it is likely that but it's now the 10th hole will become hole number 1. So that what you want to do, obviously, is put your best foot forward to golfers right from the get-go, and this improvement of the tee box will be the first thing golfers will see when they're playing the course. So I think that's in the future. So I think that's an important step, and that's it.
Thank you. The only announcement I really have is that our next board meeting will be May 21st, 2015, and that's both a very exciting occasion and a very sad occasion, because that's the occasion in which we actually have 2 board meetings. One of the old board, where my trusted and good trustees, Bruce and Joel and Andrew, will participate in the first meeting, and then we will swear in our new trustees, and we will have our new board. And so I look forward to working with them. So there's both joys and sorrow involved in that meeting. Our next order of business is consideration of the following items in connection with the new Village Cultural Center, which is referring for appropriate reviews, their signage to the Plan Commission, and resolution approving a license agreement for the Tudor Court right-of-way easements. Dave, can you? Nathan? Oh, is Nathan going to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. Nathan, do you want to walk us
Sure.
through that?
Sure. I just wanted to start by letting you know that it's sort of a 2-part presentation. I'll be making some introductory remarks and outlining the issue, and then John Ferris, the general manager of Writers Theater, is here as well with some associates who will provide the second part of the presentation, which will be more graphical in nature. The special use permit that was approved for the development of the new Village Cultural Center, which will house the Women's Library Club and Writers Theater at 325 Tudor Court, was approved by the Village Board on August 15, 2013. The approval did not include exterior signage for the building because at that time the sign details and specifications were not finalized. In recognition of this, the approval ordinance included a specific provision for signage. Specifically, that the comprehensive sign plan, once it's prepared, would be required to go before the Plan Commission for exterior appearance review. That's 1. 2, that the area and number of signs on the property may not exceed the zoning requirements for a similarly sized building in the adjacent B1 Central Business District. As a side note, the property that the facility is on is zoned RC, which is residential, and the signage is very limited in a residential district. Pretty much only real estate signs are allowed. So because it's adjacent to the business district, it was anticipated that their signage would follow the standards of the business district. And thirdly, the ordinance also included a provision that would allow them to request an increase in either the area of the signs or the number of signs pending the approval of the Village Board. At this time, the signage plans are complete, and I will allow the representatives from Writers Theater to present them following a few additional remarks. In addition to the exterior appearance review by the Plan Commission, the proposed sign package will also require your approval. First, for 3 reasons. First, the B1 district only allows 1 wall sign, and they're proposing 2 wall signs to front on Tudor Court. Second, a ground sign is only permitted when the building that it's associated with is set back at least 15 feet from the property line, and in their case, their building is 9 feet from the property line. And thirdly, a ground sign with the letters WT, in the form of the letters WT, is proposed, and such a ground sign is not permitted within the right-of-way. This is proposed to be located within the Tudor Court right-of-way. I'll note that the total area of wall and ground signs proposed are quite small and well below the total area allowable for for this building and site. Specifically, the two wall signs that they're proposing have a total combined area of 13 square feet, and the B1 district would allow them to have up to 267 square feet. The ground sign that they're proposing, the WT letters, is approximately 17 square feet in area, and the B1 district would allow them to have up to 30 square feet in area. I'll also note that there are other signs within the B1 district that project into the right-of-way, specifically awning signs, which are located above first floor storefronts that we see throughout the downtown area, as well as overhanging signs, which are seen on the Winnicky building and also at Dewey's. The proposed ground sign would be the only of its type, however, to encroach into the right-of-way. That being said, staff notes that its location, which would be mounted atop a seat wall bench, will not be an obstruction to pedestrians on the sidewalk or within the right-of-way. Due to the proposed encroachment of the ground sign, staff has prepared a license agreement for the village board's consideration that grants permission to the Women's Library Club and the Writers Theater to construct, operate, and maintain improvements within the 66-foot Tudor Court right-of-way. Additional improvements that also are planned to encroach into the Tudor Court right-of-way, in addition to the ground sign, are portions of the front stairs and ramp, the portion of the flagstone drainage garden, and the entire seat wall bench. And you have graphics that are illustrating those, as well as the extent to which they will encroach. In addition to permitting these improvements to encroach into the right-of-way, the license agreement also exempts the village from any maintenance obligations, mandates that the Women's Library Club and Writers Theater meet specific insurance requirements, and indemnifies the village from any claims. Counsel for the Women's Library Club and Writers Theater has reviewed this license agreement as drafted and as before you, and agrees to its terms and conditions. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to John Ferris and his group.
John?
Thanks, President Levin, members of the board, Village Manager Parali, staff. I'm John Ferris, as Nathan said, the General Manager for Writers Theater. Thanks for having us here this evening. I just first wanted to say thank you for your continued support for the Cultural Center on behalf of Writers Theater and the Women's Library Club, and especially to the village staff and everything they've done since we started construction last fall, and helping us make the construction go as smoothly as possible, given that it is a construction site. Tonight I brought with me Angela Peckham, who's our project architect at Studio Gang, and John Kovajewski, who's a principal at Thirst, our graphics and signage designers. They're each going to make a short presentation so you can see the four right-of-way improvements that encroach into the right-of-way, and then walk you through the exterior signage package. So Dave, if we can just do the other one first, that would be great. Perfect. I'm going to introduce Angela, and when they're done, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thanks so much.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Angela.
As John said, I'm Angela Peckham. I'm here from Studio Gang Architects to walk you through some of these features that we have and to show you exactly how those features interact with the right-of-way. Can we blow this? Can we full screen this? Or it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it.
That's good.
Okay. So this right here, in red, is going to just show our property outline and show you the dimension of the right-of-way, which is 66 feet. So zooming in then a little bit. These are the four features that we're proposing. The of way at all. So they're kind of color coded, and I think you guys maybe have them in front of you, which is easier to look at. But so there's a stair and a ramp in sort of that yellowish color, and there's two portions of that, one on the left side and one on the right side. So the ramp portion of it takes you kind of gently from the pedestrian to the sidewalk up and into the building, and then there's a sort of more direct stair on the far right. The second thing I wanted to point out was the Writers Theater sign, which is there in purple, which is sitting on our bench that is there in blue. The bench is a limestone bench, and behind it is a limestone flagstone garden that we're calling it, which is basically a sort of drainage garden that is watered, if you will, from the rooftop above it. Just zooming in a little bit so you can have a better idea of how far these things protrude into the right of way. I think you guys can see it on your cutouts or your handouts, but these are all of the dimensions so that you guys can take a look at how much we're really taking over. And I think part of the whole idea, and I'll point this out now, is that we did want to maintain the continuity of the sidewalk, for sure. And I would point out here that we actually have the typical Glencoe sidewalk that sort of looks something like this in front of the bench. So the line of the bench right here, right in front of that is, if you could imagine, that would be your typical red Glencoe pavers, so that you have that continuity of the sidewalk. And starting at the bench line is where our design kind of takes over and draws you up into the building. That line that you see crossing in front of the flagstone garden is our property line, so that's where it crosses and features. Just to zoom in a little bit, so we can talk about the bench and the flagstone garden. These are some precedent images. So the bench would be of a cut limestone, and I have a little sample here if anybody wants me to pass it around. It's kind of heavy. But that would be a cut limestone bench, and then the stones behind it are also limestone, but they're a little bit more of a rough cut. And as I said, there's a sort of drainage system that comes down from the roof that waters those stones, and underneath it is a box culvert that takes that to the sewer system. Through these in, this is what we sort of would call a precedent image. This is the Chicago Poetry Foundation, and it, I think, is a good representation of the sort of pedestrian environment that we were going for. And we're sort of interested in taking people from that right of way and having them interact with the bench and with the ramp, and kind of slow down and take a look at what's going on. So I'll just end with that, and thank you very much. If you guys don't have any questions, I guess, this is John. I can present the sign.
Does anybody have any questions for Angela?
I do. What is the width of the sidewalk from the bench to the curb?
I don't know. I mean, I want to give you the exact number, and I don't have it written down on here, so we can come back to that, and I can provide that for you.
And this has all been vetted, I assume, by public safety and public works in terms of, the traffic flow and, pedestrian traffic flow, as well as the safety issues with the sign.
We've been working with Writers Theater and Studio Gang Architects over the last probably year, I would say, since the approval, on reviewing details such as this and commenting on them, and they've been revised as well in response to some of our staff comments.
Some of the comments, so there was concern maybe that the ramp, they were concerned that safety, so we introduced a couple different textures to help the legibility of the ramp. So it was things like that that kind of came out of public safety that ultimately made its way into the design.
And there's no handrail on the ramp?
Not on the ramp, on the stairs, of course.
But in terms of the risk of a wheelchair or something going over the side of the ramp?
Yeah, that was brought up, at the slope of the ramp, is obviously as per code, for, a wheelchair accessible area, you're not required, at that slope to have a handrail. And, but we did take a look at how the ramp kind of slopes down from the front door, and we did want to make sure that there was a large enough and generous enough landing, so that, there was no danger of, sort of going to.
A runaway wheelchair?
I have a question, which is, you showed the bench and the sign and the sort of the stone wrap behind it. I guess my only question is, what happens if you get children trying to climb up those stones in the back? Are they sharp enough and so forth that they could fall and injure themselves?
No, I would say that, in this rendering, which is just kind of a representation, they do look, I agree, a little bit sharper, especially on top. So the way these flagstones are cut, it's sort of a pretty straight cut across the top, and then, a sort of, not jagged, but just not a knife cut on the side. So it's not at all, I think, what you're seeing here in terms of their pointedness.
And will they be secure enough that if somebody
Absolutely.
were to walk up with, these aren't going to be dislodged?
Yeah.
So it's anticipated that people, 8-year-old people say, will probably climb on the sign and the stones and they can handle all that.
If that happens, yes, they can handle it, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's, I hate to use this term, but a legal term, but I think it's somewhat of an attractive nuisance for young kids. And so I just want to make sure that it's, that is taken into account in designing.
I would include skateboarders in the list of ways that kids could, could kids hurt themselves? Kids can hurt themselves playing on mattresses. They're kids. What will the ramp up above, is that a smooth or bumpy surface? What are you planning for that, above the flagstones?
You're talking about, right
Yeah.
there?
Yes, exactly.
So that right there is horizontal, so that portion is not a ramp, that's just a regular walking surface that will be a sandblasted, concrete.
Okay.
So, slip resistant, in that way, and then the ramp portion, is, kind of begins right there.
Okay.
So there's no ramp, leading into, or near the flagstone.
I think we will, as a village, need to have public safety, keep an eye on the skateboarders there. I would imagine if I were a teenage boy with a skateboard, that would look so fun.
Thank you for not making it 267 square feet of sun.
That's a good, great segue, actually. Hi, good evening. My name is John Jesse. I'm principal designer at Thirst, and here to represent the signage package. So on your screen right now is a rendering, kind of blown out, but a representation of the overall exterior scheme, and as well as a night rendering, which actually is showing up a little bit better, which illustrates the kind of lighting, an artist's impression of the lighting components. So the thing you'll notice at the left-hand side of the building is the building identification, the sign that says Writers Theater. And then to the right of that, you'll see a little line. We'll go through this in detail, but that's the primary donor identification for the cultural center itself. The WT is in front near the bench, and there's some vinyl on the building around the back. We'll go through that in detail. This is a diagram that kind of shows all the different primary components on the south elevation. So the Writers Theater sign on the left, which I just mentioned, the primary donor sign right there, the vinyl on the door, which simply indicates the building address, hours, and a statement about ticket purchases, and then the WT sign here.
Here's the building identification sign, again, looking a little blown out on your screen, but it's essentially a dimensional letter, constructed letter with what's called a halo lit sign, which means it's constructed out of stainless steel brushed finish. It's a very high-end finish, and it has a halo light that casts back, lighting it from the rear, kind of creating a white halo around it to allow it to be identified at night. It's a very subtle look, and it's also a very common look in a lot of high-end luxury signage. That our May sign is actually a pretty good representation of what we believe it will end up being. The center donor sign, again, apologies for this, for blowing out the nature of these slides, is a 6-inch tall cut stainless steel letter that's not lit, standing off against the, from the facade about, an inch away, so it has a slight shadow cast during the day. And the text up there is to be determined. It's just a representation until the primary donor is secured. Here's a representation of this. This is very common. I'm sure you've all seen this. And then the WT sign. So the WT sculpture sign is a dimensional representation of the logo. Consists of a 1.5-inch wide, 3/16-inch thick U-channel stainless steel with a brushed finish. It's actually a finish called ice, which is provided by our fabricator, who is Forms and Surfaces. Now, if you're familiar with the Chicago Policeman's Memorial, they fabricated that sign. They also do all the forms and fittings outside all the Apple stores around the country. They know a lot about building high-performance outdoor pieces that are that are on plazas and around lots of people in a lot of their retail experiences. The sign will have within its inside edge a kind of decorative light feature, which will be a slim LED band that will cause the inside of the letter to glow. Won't really be a light, won't cast enough light for you to read by it or anything like that, but it'll just cause a kind of nice light accent for that. Here again is the same rendering which we've been looking at up to this point here since this scale. It's also worth noting in our discussions with Forms and Surfaces, all the edges are east, so you're looking at something with a pretty severe point coming down at the bottom from the W there. That's all going to be eased and rounded, so there won't be any sharp edges on the sign itself. Here's a representation. There's the police memorial there in the ice finish. I have samples if you're all interested. And then here's a kind of representation of what the look will be. It's a metal bar, and then the light will be very subtle, just a kind of light band, white band in the middle that will wrap around. We have another representation here of signage where that kind of look is accomplished. On the front door for the building identification, we have very simple white vinyl. Looks like it's going to come like illegible in these slides, but we have the 325, the address building recognition. We have right here the building hours, and then the phone number for contact for tickets. We also have the concealed carry sign as pursuant to the Illinois standard. Those are all on the south elevation. On the north elevation, off of Glencoe Drive, is just a simple black vinyl on the back door that quite literally says Writers Theater Backstage, and it also is designated secondary interest for the Women's Library Club, Glencoe, located off the parking lot. That's it.
Any questions for John?
I just think one thing that doesn't necessarily read well from the plans that I know confused me when I first saw them was that the freestanding WT is actually hollow.
That's right.
It's not a solid sign. The stainless steel essentially is just providing the border of the letters.
That's right. It's an outline, not a solid form. So essentially, it's just an inch and a half thick, goes around the entire W, traces it, like a tracing of your pen, and then you can see through the center of it. There's no blacks or anything. In the center of it.
Any questions? Thank you, John.
Thanks for your time. If there are any other questions, we're happy to answer them.
Any questions for John Ferry?
Thank you very much.
John. All right, may I hear a motion to adopt the two resolutions?
I so move.
Second.
Could I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Collins.
Yes.
Trustee Hyatt.
Yes.
Trustee Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Pierce.
Yes.
Trustee Solomon.
Yes.
Trustee Thomas.
Yes.
Okay. We're at that point in time where we're due to have a public hearing and consideration of the fiscal year 2016 appropriations ordinance. And so I declare the public hearing open. Is there anybody that wishes to address us or talk to us about that? Okay, if nobody has anything to ask us, then I would declare the public hearing closed. Could I have a roll call, please, on the consideration of the adoption of the ordinance?
Well, you need
Actually,
a
I gotta
motion.
ask for, is there a motion to adopt it?
I second it.
Okay, now can I have a roll call?
You may. Trustee Collins.
Yes.
Trustee Hyatt.
Yes.
Trustee Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Pierce.
Yes.
Trustee Solomon.
Yes.
Trustee Thomas.
Yes.
All right. I would like a motion to adjourn into executive session for the purpose of discussing acquisition and disposition of property under Open Meetings Act, Section 2C5, 5 and 6, I guess I would say.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Could I have a roll call?
Trustee Collins.
Yes.
Trustee Hyatt.
Yes.
Trustee Miller.
Yes.
Trustee Pierce. Trustee Solomon.
Yes.
Trustee Thomas.
Yes.
We're